Welcome to The Line. Former state senator Phil Griego resigned last year during the legislative session amid allegations of ethics violations. This week, New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas filed 9 criminal charges against Mr. Griego. Those include bribery and solicitation, fraud, and filing a false financial disclosure statement. Those charges all stem from a real estate deal that Mr. Griego helped move through the legislature and then benefited from financially as the broker for that same deal. Now, do you have a reaction that you'd like to share about this story? Get in touch with us on our website, NewMexicoInFocus.org. You can also look for us on Facebook and Twitter. Now, let's hear what this week's Line Opinion panelists have to say about this new development. I'm joined at the table by Daniel Foley, former New Mexico House Minority Whip, Sophie Martin, attorney and editor of DukeCityFix.com. Antoinette Cedillo Lopez is back. She's executive director of Enlace Comunitario. And Eddie Aragon, CEO of The Rock of Talk, Fox News ABQ 95.9. Daniel,
yes, sir.
Seen some of the details behind these allegations. Mr. Griego basically brokered the deal. But the most interesting bit to me is this classic, I'm so glad you're here this week for this. This idea that you're going to make a vote and you walk out of the chamber, so you're not on the record as voting for this deal that's going to help you financially, as if this is going to clear you completely. It just doesn't seem to work.
It's an interesting question. It's interesting when you read the media portrayal of what's happened, the accusations against Phil Griego. This is going back to, the crime is never as bad as the cover-up, right? I mean, and in the legislature, the reality is, Gene, that you're supposed to, not only are you supposed to walk out, you're supposed to publicly disclose. You're supposed to stand up and say, Mr. Speaker, I'm recusing myself from this vote. There's a potential of a conflict of interest, whatever terms you want to use.
Right.
So there's a way to do that, right? In my years, I don't think I ever heard anybody stand up and say anything. People would leave.
Right.
But I think not justifying what Phil Griego did here. This was clearly, a real bad lapse in judgment on his part. But it's interesting, where does it stop, right? I mean, you have teachers in the legislature voting for teacher pay raises.
Okay.
They're going to get them. You've got attorneys in the legislature giving the public defender more money. They're going to get the contracts. You have people voting on laws that have to do with oil and gas. They own oil and gas businesses. So, the legislature is inherently full of conflicts, right? It's a citizen legislature.
Right.
That's inherently going to give you those conflicts.
Let me stop you on that point. That's an excellent point. But given that, where does Mr. Griego's actions stand in your mind?
Well, I think, from what I understand, what had happened, and others at the table may know better, he had a client outside that had a long-term lease with a state building. They were going to eventually buy the state building, so he went and got a bill introduced to let the state sell them that state building, of which he made a commission on. Clearly, probably at any point during this process, once the state got involved, he should have gone to somebody else and said, you guys need to represent these people. You guys need to take care of this. It's not worth 20, 30, 50, 100. I mean, maybe he made $20 million on the deal. Maybe that's the value to what he's done. Clearly, this wasn't handled correctly. But more importantly, what wasn't handled correctly that I think has probably led to this is not disclosing it, not paying the people involved.
Right.
I mean, it goes to that problem of, lots of times after a long time in Santa Fe, people start believing they're above the law. People start saying, I can treat people any way I want. I don't have to pay people. You're beneath me. I'm a state senator. I'm a state rep. It doesn't matter. I'm untouchable. And I think, the one thing, and the one person I got to give credit to that I think has shown the ability to go after stuff is Hector. You got to give Hector credit. I mean, this is a Democrat. He's gone after the Secretary of State. People don't like what he's done on some of these things because he's trying to bring closure to them. But I got to tell you, I mean, since I've lived in New Mexico, he's done a phenomenal job as the Attorney General going after on both sides of the deal.
That's right. Good job there. Antoinette, the details of this are sort of messy. As Dan's describing it and as we're all reading it, it sounds almost reckless. Like there's a huge trail here. It's not that hard to follow this trail.
Exactly. A lot of these things were on tape. But I want to talk a little bit about the difference between a teacher who votes on teacher raises and this. The difference is everybody knows that person is a teacher. It's exactly what you said, disclosure. Everybody knows that the person is a lawyer, that everybody knows whatever. But this was exactly what you said. It didn't see any sunshine. And as you point out, it was kind of surprisingly reckless. And all on video.
And it involves a state building as well. That's the other part that's a little squishy. Do you know what I mean? Let me move to Sophie on this. Sorry about that. The idea that you need a broker, honestly, for these things to move a state building is just sort of bizarre for a lot of people.
And part of what's concerning in the allegations against Griego is this idea that the owners of the lease, so the people who were leasing the building, who wanted to buy it, they wanted the fix. They say, we think that this negotiation is going to take too long. Our last negotiation took too long. We have been advised that we can cut through all of that by working with Griego. Right, and that feels to me, problematic. Now, is this the first time a business has gone to, often it's former legislators, right? We go to a former legislator, they go in and say, I'm trying to get this through. Hey, old buddy, can I bend your ear about this? That feels different to me. As much as I don't love the immediate lobbying that we see from some of our former legislators and that ethics legislation is supposed to address, but the fact that you would go to a current legislator, and I agree with Antoinette's point that there is this level of disclosure. I'm a teacher, et cetera, et cetera. But when I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, I'm a whatever I am, an oil and gas person in the legislature, not only is there that disclosure, but I'm not out there saying this well that I happen to own. This, only I get the raise, only I get the contract. And here we have a situation in which the only person who was going to get that $50,000 commission was Griego.
And it really wasn't a commission. It's a broker's fee for
Exactly.
monitoring
That's right.
sales process.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's different than a commission. I mean, it's not like he said, "Hey, I'm going to get this money if the sale goes through." Someone paid him $50,000 to monitor the process.
And of
That's
course,
right.
and of course, we
Key
all have
difference,
to say
yeah.
we all have to say these are allegations.
Right.
They have yet to be proven. This is the first step in the dance that that the prosecutors and the defense take toward probably a settlement, as we've discussed around this table
That's right.
before. It will be
But these are serious
it'll be
charges, though,
interesting
too.
to see-
Yeah.
They are, but it'll be interesting to see whether this comes out very different from what we saw with Diana Duran, whether a deal is struck or whether they go to trial.
Eddie, it's interesting when you think about this scenario. We have campaign money that is being spent by Mr. Griego. We've talked about that at this table as well.
Right.
So the perception, his defense perception's not good here.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have much to fall back on. Should he feel the full brunt of the law here, or is a negotiation a better way to go? Are the charges serious enough for you personally?
Well, I
to see?
think that's a crazy question, first of all. Should he feel the
Yeah.
full brunt of the law? I mean, absolutely. That's what we all want. I think these politicians, the political class, aren't above, us. And he should, he cheated his broker out. He spent an additional $6,500. He resigned immediately. He basically admitted guilt. Why did he do that? Because this man wanted to preserve his pension when he left. So he's still taking the money. I like what you said, the cover up better than the crime.
Right.
This guy is continuing to pile on, and he's notified by the media. This guy has not felt any repercussions. I know Hector has done a great job. I'm glad he's going after Democrats, Republicans. That's his job. That's very important. It just mesmerizes me when we start to think about the fact that Diana Duran only spent 30 days in jail. When we think about our political class not feeling the brunt of the law, and I know voters out there want to make sure that they do feel the brunt of the law. This guy was just talking about running again for the very same.
That's right. It's going to
It's-
be interesting to see, too, because I think by the time he got out, I think he falls under the law of being able to lose his pension. And so, because remember, they made those changes that, because I think we made those came not too long after Senator Aragon, where people were kind of surprised that he was going to get that. And I think that was some of the first ethics legislation that came through. Said, okay, listen, if you do something in the capacity of, and it's a pretty narrow scope to lose your pension, to lose the retirement. But if you read the charges that are here, fraud and bribery, as a state senator, there's a real opportunity, and that could be the negotiating point, right? Look, we're going to send you to jail, or we're going to take your pension. Which is it?
I shouldn't be a negotiator. I want to make one more thing.
Hey,
The
let
Ethics
me get to
Commission.
internet here real quick. Sorry about that. We're just about out of time.
I was just going to say, but that's what really is disturbing to the public, the people who go to jail and serve the time, and then the white-collar crimes who get the slap on the wrist.
That's right.
And the
that's-
ethics, there should have been an ethics
Exactly.
commission that was established this year. It was not, and that's a failure by Senate Democrats here in the legislature.
Good last point. Appreciate that. Up next, we hear how teachers are reacting to the changes in the No Child Left Behind Act and the implementation of the PARCC test here in New Mexico.